Hey everybody, it's Alicia Reiser from A Rise Above Occupational Therapy, and today we're going to talk about the visual efficiency skill of saccades. Many of you may be familiar with the Dynavision. This is a less expensive version where we just made a grid on the wall, and with our laser pointer, we hit the targets. With this, you can use alternating hand motions. You can use different color laser pointers for right hand, left hand. You can add a cognitive load, but the main skill that you're working on here is going from target to target using saccades. The game of Simon is an old-time favorite where you're going from color to color, following the pattern using a cognitive load, but you're also going from target to target with your eyes as you follow the pattern from color to color. You might think it's a pursuit, but it is a saccade because it's going from stationary object to stationary object, whereas a pursuit follows one moving target. Here we've incorporated auditory processing along with the visual efficiency skill of a saccade. So we call out a coordinate, B4, and then the client looks for that target on the bottom and then also matches that target on the top board. So you're using a side-to-side horizontal saccade, but then you're also using a vertical up and down saccade. Kinect 4 uses a vertical surface to look at saccades, also using horizontal and vertical saccades within the board. You're using visual motor integration or eye-hand coordination when you're picking up your target chip, and then you're also using it again when you're inserting the chip into the slot, always looking for the block or the win. Perfection is another fun game that we like to use to incorporate saccades. By placing the pieces on either side, you're using a horizontal to find your target piece and then insert it into the slot. We usually start in the top left corner and then use a reading pattern so that you're going top to bottom, left to right to insert your pieces. Rush Hour also incorporates saccades, the same as perfection, by following your design. So by putting the pieces on either side, left or right, you're using a horizontal saccade to find your piece as you look at the pattern using a vertical saccade for piece placement. The multi-matrix game is a great way to incorporate top to bottom, left to right reading saccades. They have numbers, letters, shapes, and dots on each side of the cube. So you can incorporate this fun scanning pattern in many ways. Here we're using the sequencing of numbers to skip to the next block that is empty. Bananagrams are fun to incorporate figure ground, visual clutter, saccades, while incorporating word circles. So we have to do a word unscramble here, so that's incorporating visual memory. And then once you've decoded the word in the circle, you get to spell it with the tiles. Pairs to pairs is another tile game where you can use saccades finding your target letter. Here we're pulling out all of the A's and then the B's and then the C's. So again, working on sequencing. And then once you have all of those piles in order, what you can do is have the client pull out all the solid letters. So go through the alphabet and pull out all the solid A's. Then go through and pull out all the striped A's. I'm sure many of you have these card boards in your clinic. They're very inexpensive to make just by using poster board and a deck of cards and some clear packaging tape. But again, using a top to bottom, left to right saccade sequence, you go through your deck of cards and then you match what's on the board that you've created and you create that pattern down below. So again, you're working on a near-far saccade. You're working on sustained near if you hold the deck in your hands close enough. You're working on figure ground and visual clutter. Sometimes we incorporate a memory aspect to this, and they have to remember 2 sequences of cards, and then you cover up the cardboard and see if they can remember to find it. So lots of ways to use this, but a primary skill, again, that you are working on is, in fact, saccades. Any card game tends to use saccades, looking from the table where the cards are discarded to the cards in your hand. But here we chose to use the game of trash. It's a sequencing game where you lay out your 13 cards and then you are trying to pull the sequence from ace to king as fast as you can against an opponent. So you're always going from your discard deck to where the card goes in the sequence. So lots of saccades going from left to right in this card game. You can incorporate solitaire, you can incorporate go fish, you can incorporate anything where you're looking from card to table. And you'd be using a saccade. Here we take a deck of Uno cards and we have a target of zip codes where the client is trying to recall the zip code that they've looked at the chart on the wall. They're using figure ground to find the target card that they need. They're using visual motor integration to hang up the card in the sequence. And then they're looking at form constancy. As you can see here, the 6 is upside down. And then, of course, they're using saccades as they go from table to clothesline. Spahn is a great way to use saccades, and you can set it up in so many different ways. Here we've set it up actually in a clock format, so you can be using circular saccades. What we do sometimes is say match the time. So we'll say looking at the 9 and the 3 o'clock time, what is the same? Looking at the 12 and the 6, looking at 11 and 5. Then we might say compare 1 and 2 o'clock, 2 and 3 o'clock, 4 and 5 o'clock. You can also set it up in 2 columns as we're doing here. So what you can do here is you can do that top to bottom, left to right pattern where you're comparing the 2 in order. You can also use a column jump where you're going from the 2 outsides and comparing those 2 objects to see what's the same. You can go and use an oblique so that you're using the top left and the bottom right, and then the top right and the bottom left, and any of the cards in between so that you can get all your gazes of fixation. We love to be resourceful, so here we've taken our power web from some of our hand patients, and we've created a grid underneath. One of the grids has letters, A through Z, and the other has numbers 1 through 26. So what we've done here is created a trail making task where you're looking for the letter on one side, so A, and then you're looking for the number on the other side, so that would be 1. And then you'd go B2, C3, and so forth. Again, using an up and down vertical saccade when you're going to get your marble, using a horizontal saccade when you're doing your trail making, and using visual motor integration as you put the marble to the target. We like to use these life picture puzzle books because they have various pictures using vertical and horizontal saccades. There's also options where they have 6 pictures that you're comparing and contrasting as well, besides just the 2 pictures. But here you can see we're using an up and down vertical saccade to point out what's different between the 2 pictures. And now we're back to using a horizontal saccade, comparing right and left pictures. How many differences can you see? Lastly, we've made another scanning board here, incorporating categories. So there's 5 post-it notes for each category type. And we just take our laser pointer. Here we're searching out all of the animals on the board. This is a nice activity instead of always doing near saccades, of using far saccades. Remember that it's easier to do a saccade when the distance is further, because it's like a gross motor skill, than when the targets are closer together, and we think of that as more of a fine motor skill. So if your eyes are fatigued after reading, or if you lose your spot, or you forget what you've just read and have to go back, give us a call today to set up a free screening, because you may have an eye efficiency skill issue. And don't forget to subscribe to our page, A Rise Above Occupational Therapy, for more videos on neuro-related issues.